Hello and welcome to this live IBEW Local 103 quarterly video webcast. Wherever you may be, or however you may be accessing this show tonight, thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Dominic Giratano. The topic for tonight's informational program is the 2012 presidential and senatorial election. We will examine the platforms of both President Obama and Governor Romney, as well as Governor Scott Brown and Elizabeth Warren in the Massachusetts Senate race. Throughout all the campaigning, the television commercials, and the debates, if you ever caught yourself questioning the truth or the specifics of what the candidates claimed, then have we got the show for you tonight. We hope this information presented here tonight will provide those specifics, a rarity in today's campaigns, either for or against a certain candidate, depending on your party affiliation and what you believe in most in deciding whom to vote for. We realize you have strong convictions as to which candidate or candidates are best, and with less than 2 weeks until Election Day, if you're still undecided or are waiting for further clarification or information, you've come to the right place. Joining me now, your IBEW Local 103 Business Manager, Mike Monahan. Mike, as always, welcome.
Yep, thanks, Tom.
First of all, let's go ahead and talk about the role of unions, IBEW Local 103, why we're here tonight and presenting this information.
Yeah, I mean, it's a necessary evil, unfortunately. We're all busy in our own lives and doing our jobs. But politics, unfortunately, has become a bigger part of what we do every day, mainly because of those on the other side, mainly the Republican Party, that really want to see the annihilation of unions in general, not just beat them down, just to do away with them. And if we don't stand up, one, we're going to be out of business. In America in general, even those who are non-union, whose wages reflect ours, are going to be affected as well.
With the influx of television advertising, radio advertising, it seems like now that we're getting to the point of the last 2 weeks in election, most people are just saying, God, enough already. But what was the 2010 decision of the Supreme Court that really paved the way for that, and how does it relate?
Yeah, well, it was an important case. I mean, I think you're referring to a Citizens United.
Right.
So the Citizens United case was a Supreme Court decision, basically said that you can dump as much cash as you want into these campaigns. So why we're seeing more than usual is really because of that. So you have the super PACs that we've heard all about during the primaries, and we just have this, and we're part of it as well.
Sure.
It's not to the level that the the $5 million single checks written by Vegas moguls, and without mentioning names, but it's just this amount of money that's involved, and it's all TV, radio. So yeah, we've all had enough. I'm sure when the phone rang tonight, we robocalled, but they said not again.
Right. Well, tonight we're going to provide, as we mentioned, some information, some background in those advertisements that we talked about. You really don't know what to distinguish from truth and fact, and reality check, all whatever you want to call it. And we're going to try to drill that down tonight.
Yeah.
So, just in your own opinion, how important is this year's election coming up in just less than 2 weeks?
Yeah. Well, every election is, when you're talking to that candidate, this is the most important election ever. So having said that, I think this may be the most important election in most of our working lifetimes. The way that the House is set up, the way the Senate is in play, and the presidency. I mean, you could see legislation passed doing away with the National Labor Relations Act. I mean, Davis-Bacon, right to work. There are some real, I guess, hateful towards union people in those elected positions that could do some damage.
Sure. Before we get into specifics, we're going to start with the presidential race, but there's a video circulating around the internet that many of our members may have seen, and if they haven't, it's really going to open up their eyes.
Yeah, it's good. Thank God for video cameras, YouTube, and for primaries, but I think this kind of sums it all up.
Let's take a look.
If I become president of the United States, I will curb the practice we have in this country of giving union bosses an unfair advantage in contracting. One of the first things I will do, actually on day one, is I will end the government's favoritism towards unions in contracting on federal projects and end project labor agreements, and I will fight to repeal Davis-Bacon. didn't know that was going to get that kind of response, right? I'd have said that earlier. I also, of course, are going to make sure that workers in America have the right to a secret ballot, and I will fight for right-to-work laws. There's
A standing ovation by the crowd. I'm sure they were happy to see that. What's the correlation there with the ABC to union labor, if there is one, Mike?
Well, you know, the Associated Builders and Contractors is an organization. I like to refer to it as a union for businesses. So it's not okay for workers to join together and collectively bargain,
right,
but it's okay for contractors to get together and belong to an organization. But one piece in there, because he's in favor of the secret ballot, and like most things with Romney, what that means is not changing labor law towards the Employee Free Choice Act.
Right.
That's what he wants. He wants the same setup where they can hold captive meetings, and that's really what that means. Like right to work. It's not what it sounds like.
Let's get into right to work specifically, and on that topic, President Obama and obviously we just heard from Governor Romney about their positions. But here's what President Obama says about right to work. He says, "I believe when folks try and take collective bargaining rights away by passing so-called right to work laws, that might as well be called the right to work for less and less. It's not about economics, it's about politics." And I don't think we really need to understand on the other side of the aisle where Governor Romney stands on that. But let's get into right to work a little bit deeper and how it impacts New England, the Northeast.
Yeah, I will, Dom. Speaking to what the other side of that slide said, it wouldn't surprise me if it said just the opposite of what he just said with Governor Romney. But you know, right to work is not what it sounds like.
Right.
It's legislation that is states' issues as of now. President Obama is against right to work, and we know Governor Romney is in favor of it. So he would support a federal law making right to work a federal rather than a states issue. About half the states in the United States are right to work, Indiana being the last one. And why are we talking about the presidential for a Boston-based local union where it's not, Massachusetts is not a battleground state, not a swing state? This is about our members in New Hampshire right now. So we have about 500 members in New Hampshire. If Governor Romney is elected, it doesn't matter what happens in New Hampshire in the sense of the governor's race.
Right.
But speaking to the governor's race, so the House in New Hampshire, the Senate in New Hampshire passed legislation, I want to say 3 times, making New Hampshire a right-to-work state. Governor Lynch vetoed it. There were not enough votes to overturn his veto. So New Hampshire remains a union state, not a right-to-work state. This governor's race that's going on there now is very important. Lemontaine, the Republican, quote by himself, he is Scott Walker on steroids.
He said that about himself.
Yeah. So you can take it to the bank. We expect the House and the Senate to stay about the same. We expect the legislation to pass in January. If Lemontaine becomes the governor, he will sign that legislation. And New Hampshire in 2013 will be a right-to-work state. Yeah.
There are some interesting facts as it relates to right-to-work legislation, especially up in New Hampshire, breaking the, for lack of a better word, blue coverage of New England.
We have a 6-state lock where no states in New England are right-to-work states. I just laid out the scenario if Governor Lemontaine's elected governor, New Hampshire will be a right-to-work state. And you saw up there, there's great statistics. My brother Joe actually did a great paper for his degree he's working on and broke down right to work. 51% more deaths and accidents in right to work states. That's data that's collected that you can't dispute. So you take all those right to work states, it's there. So you can see the breakdown of unions, protection, safety, and this is the result of it.
What about health care coverage?
Yeah, I mean, health care, I think 21% more residents have health insurance in the collective bargaining states compared to the right-to-work states. Another stat.
Poverty rates?
Yeah, the poverty and, of course, the minimum wage. The poverty rate, when you take the highest states in the country with the highest poverty rates, I think 11 out of 15 are right-to-work states.
And that's a crazy comparison that you can make there, that it doesn't happen by accident.
Right.
That the highest poverty rate, 11 out of 15 are our
Yeah, it goes
right
on
work
to
states.
on, and it doesn't apply as much to us, although we have many members working towards their associate's degree, but it breaks it down actually with college degrees. And the other one on minimum wage, so when you take all the states in the United States, the 15 states that have the highest percentage of minimum wage workers, 11 out of the 15 are right-to-work states. So as you said, it's not by accident. There's a correlation. As it goes right to work, as President Obama said, less and less. And the only things that go up, I guess, are poverty rates and accidents, and it's not by accident. It's,
President Obama and Governor Romney are obviously on the record on this issue and have both been quoted, and I think it's appropriate to read a couple of those here. And President Obama first says that, as relating to minimum wage, it says, "I believe our economy is stronger when workers are getting paid good wages and good benefits." He has supported proposals to raise the minimum wage for workers to $9.50 an hour. Conversely, Governor Mitt Romney vetoed a bill which would have raised Massachusetts' minimum wage to $8 an hour. And he says right now, there's probably not a need to raise the minimum wage. I mean, it's just, they couldn't be more opposite in terms of that. And as we just talked about, the poverty rates and what it does for accidents and safety, it's just it's a glaring difference.
yeah. I mean, usually you probably couldn't never get Governor Romney to say there's ever a good time to raise wages because of the negative impact it has on businesses. And, they always use that. But there's countries around the world that, Canada being one of them. I mean, they look at raising wages when the economy is bad because it puts more money in people's pockets. We know most of us will spend what we get, and which is good for the economy. So there's a whole other argument on the other side from theirs.
And as far as just union rights go, right to work is obviously one of them. But how President Obama feels versus Governor Romney, I don't think it's beyond our powers to say what they think about those are. Maybe if you want to just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the differences are clear. You really, if you are undecided as far as here goes, I don't know what the issue is that you're undecided on, because you couldn't have two candidates that disagree or on opposite ends of the spectrum, at least from in a union situation. So, from Davis-Bacon to OSHA to right to work to stimulus. I mean, the amount of work that the president is trying to get out to the country through his bills are being held up. And the Republican House has been, in my opinion, given a free ride. They're just holding back money that's been allocated to come out and put people to work. Governor Romney is on the record. A lot of that is federal work. Davis-Bacon would apply, and he wants to do with the Davis-Bacon. So I watched the debate. He's in favor of rising take-home pay, but it's typical Romney. Rising income, take-home pay, but do away with Davis-Bacon. It's
Doesn't really correlate.
It's textbook. Yeah, textbook Romney.
As far as middle-class income goes, we have some interesting statistics since the 1960s about middle-class income and how it's fallen. Maybe I'll just let you expand on those.
Yeah, so I mean, it really goes back when you drill into that data. It goes back to the 40s, like from 47 to 80, and then 80 to current days. It shows productivity, it shows wages, when the country was the best, really, when middle income America, the middle class bought a cottage and had a new car, and it's pretty. I think if you look at the statistics, how can you get us back to those days? Stop this trend here. So, you can see the declining market share of unions, the middle class share of the national income. They're tied at the hip. You can see them. As one falls, the other falls. And Americans, at some point, they're going to have to make a choice and decide those that don't believe unions help middle class America. At some point, they're going to have to look at the facts.
Let's look at household income. We have some more stats as it relates to that. And this slide and the next both deal with it. And I think you can obviously see, over 30 years, the average increase in household income from the top 1% to the bottom 90 as compared to 46 to 76 the 30 years prior. It's just, it's hard to believe.
Well, yeah. So the statistics, you can't really dispute the facts. So that was the slide, 1946. So 1946 to 76, you can see, the bottom 90% income grew 92%, while the top 1% grew 25%. And then, you go back and say, when did things start getting kind of crazy? 76, I'm not going to blame that on Jimmy Carter, but certainly Reagan, certainly a different way at looking at things. Patco strike, defined benefit pension plans, the 401k coming into effect, and you can see it just taking off from there. So from 76 to 06, the bottom 90%, our household income grew at 10%. And 239%. And people say, really wondering why things are they are. Now, maybe they just don't have the facts or don't take the time to read it, and which is part of what we're doing tonight. So that member who may have a neighbor on both sides, or, a family member who, has got different views, right. It's hard if you don't live in this world all the time to articulate the argument. So that's part of what we're doing tonight, and all this is also being put to paper and mailed out as well, and will sit on the website.
Well, and you probably come from a place talking about positions and who you choose to vote for. From a local 103 perspective, you're really concerned with three things, and what are those three as it relates to elections?
Yeah, what I say internally is wages, benefits, and working conditions. That's really why unions exist. That's really as far as we should go. In my opinion, the more social issues, unless it applies to benefits, that's where it ends with us. Mm-hmm. And wages as in prevailing rate, Davis-Bacon, collective bargaining, benefits as in healthcare, and working conditions as in OSHA and safety on the job site. So I think it's pretty clear. It's funny, you just made me think of something when registering to vote. So it's also, I think, pretty clear in the way it was explained to me by my father and was explained to him by his father when registering to vote. It's pretty basic. He says, if you sign the back of the check, you're a Democrat. You sign the front of the check, you're a Republican. Mm-hmm. And it's that basic. And I think it is that basic, especially in these times when you look at these numbers from 46 to 76 and 76 on to 06. It's clear which party is going to. They're not perfect by any means, but which party is going to be there to at least stop the erosion. Mm.
And we have an interesting graphic as it relates to where you sign on your check and which party you affiliate with that. And that's, the corporations versus the workers, how their wealth is continually going up as we look at CEO pay compared to average worker pay, from the 80s to the 90s. 2000, I mean, that is just a precipitous, jump there. And it leveled out a little bit, but it's still really, really high. Just maybe expand on that from your point of view.
Yeah, so it's almost like we've accepted the fact that they're the CEO, so so they can make 525 times what the average worker makes. And, I'm full of sayings, right? They put their underwear and pants on one leg at a time. And I assure you that most of them are not working as hard as our members are every day. Most of them couldn't last till coffee time with our members. So, certainly they're educated people, they're in positions of power, but not to that level. That's it's absurd what's going on in this country, in my opinion. And the only stopgap, the only protection, I think, is collectively bargain and unions is the only way that you're going to stop that.
Well, let's go ahead and look at America's workers and their share of the pie going down, almost the opposite of what we just talked about there. 1 in 6 has no job. Real wages haven't increased in 20 years. Every 20 seconds, another files for bankruptcy. I mean, it goes on and on. And I'm sure you could find many other statistics to put in this graph, but it just illustrates the point once again as it relates to this presidential election and where each candidate stands with these issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you asked Governor Romney, or you were able to secret videotape him in a certain house, I think you'd be even more shocked. It's really fundamentally, they don't think you as the worker really have any say, any right, and they pay you what they feel they should pay you, and as little as that may be. And corporate profits, they deserve them, and risk reward. There is some truth to that. We're not saying that you take all the risk, you don't get some of the reward, but not 525 times an hour worth. The average worker. It's gluttony. In my opinion, it's gluttony.
We could go on for 20 more minutes, and obviously we want to move on to the senatorial race because that's really important to your members. So we'll be back in about 2.5 minutes from this break, so please hang in tight. We'll be back to talk about the senatorial race here in Massachusetts. For too many, when they come home to the land they love, their battles are far from over. Illness and lack of opportunity becomes the new enemy. That's why IBEW Local 103 continually supports and hosts Project Stand Down, a national program providing care and assistance to veterans in need. Let us all take care of the brave men and women who have taken care of us. For more, click Project Stand Down on the 103advantage.com. IBEW Local 103, Boston's leading renewable energy professionals, are proving it once again with the newest green technology hitting the Commonwealth, electric vehicles. Our electricians and technicians are certified charging station installers. See for yourself. Stop by our offices for a quick, no-charge charge, and we'll explain what we can offer. Think IBEW Local 103 for electric vehicle charging stations. Visit us online at the103advantage.com.
IBEW Local 103 electricians and technicians power our city, help us communicate, and convert nature into energy. But our impressive skills don't stop there.
Local 103 is partnering with Wentworth Institute of Technology, and when their members have completed their studies, they will have earned an associate degree in engineering technology.
IBEW Local 103, the best electricians and technicians in the world.
With a college degree in their tool belt.
Click Wentworth on the 103advantage.com. You expect to see the expertise of IBEW Local 103 in electrical installations throughout the Commonwealth, but did you know the helping hand of our electricians and technicians reaches all the way down to Haiti? For months, Local 103 members have been volunteering their time to build a new hospital in this tiny nation following the devastating earthquake of 2010. Working with the aid organization Partners in Health, we are bringing critical healthcare support to those who need it the most.
Electricity is not something you can mess around with, and it's not something that we could afford to waste time with on this project. We need the best, and we need the guys from Boston. I instantly turned to Sully Mack and then actually 103 with those. I'd worked with them in Boston, and they were the best.
Helping those in need, the right thing to do, more than just electricians. Any of these sayings apply to the men and women of Local 103 who have gone and will continue to go down to Haiti to work on this project. Click on the 103advantage.com for more information. That's an interesting last commercial we just watched there about the work you guys did down in Haiti, helping out after the earthquake, building that hospital for Partners in Health.
Over 100 members went down.
That's the number that it's up to.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. There's a full story on this website about the work you guys did, talking to the local people, talking to the contractors, obviously your members. It's a really moving story. It actually won an award for your work, a Telly Award, which is honors the best in non-broadcast video production work.
We were the story. You guys did the work.
Well, we couldn't have done it without the story. So that's very interesting. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Let's go ahead and move on to the Senate race here in Massachusetts. We're going to first talk with Governor Scott Brown, his voting record, and just where he stands as it relates to union labor.
Yeah. So I mean, Senator Scott Brown, he was a state senator who filled the Ted Kennedy's Senate seat. So I'm not sure he ever thought he was going to win. I hear some people say he never thought he was going to win. That was really for another statewide position that he planned on running, but he won nonetheless and beat in our opinion, a great candidate. Martha Coakley is the Attorney General, wage enforcement, does a great job, and as a senator, I'm glad she's still there. So Scott Brown, very charismatic guy, very good communicator, and comes off as one of the guys, so to speak, with the Carhartt jacket and the pickup truck, and
You've met him, talked to him.
Oh yeah, I mean,
sat
I've
down.
had when he was state senator, I've sat with him hours and discussed issues. And it's important to point out, of course, the Carhartt's a $900 Carhartt, and the pickup truck, I assure you, has never had any BX connectors rolling around in the back of it,
Right.
or anything like that. But he's done a good job branding himself as a regular guy, which maybe he is over here, but his voting record is not for regular guys. Let me tell you that.
Let's start with unemployment, his record on unemployment.
Yeah, this one, this really, this one bothers me. I want to say he voted 4 times against unemployment extension. So not just Massachusetts, I mean, just not Local 103 members who really needed that extension, but Massachusetts residents in general. So he's voted 4 times against the extending the unemployment benefits for Massachusetts residents and our members. And at the same time, he's voting against extensions for unemployment. He's voting in favor of giving oil companies subsidies. I mean, I can understand consistency. And if he's looking at this at welfare, no problem. If you want to look at it that way, be consistent. And don't tell me that giving oil companies subsidies is okay, and voting against giving members of Local 103 an extension on their unemployment insurance when we're in one of the worst recessions, or as I call it, blue-collar depression. So don't tell me you're one of us.
Right.
Don't tell me you're one of us when you vote 4 times about giving extensions to our members.
How about jobs?
Yeah, this is another one. You look at his record, and comes off as one of us. I want to say 5 times. I spoke about it earlier in the show. So President Obama has monies ready to go. Infrastructure, that's highway, that's rail. We have the Amtrak line that runs through our jurisdiction. We have an extensive MBTA system, a rail system being held together. I talked to the guys that are on the T. A lot of improvements need to be made, and that's money that would go there and put people to work. So the American jobs, economic growth, energy-related tax credits, I could go on and on about that, and voting against that, as well as Romney. Romney's against the extending the wind energy tax credit, which makes no sense to me. Iowa, Ohio, and Colorado, I want to say there's 9,000 jobs. People are working in those industries right now in wind, but he either didn't do his homework or it was primary or whatever it was. But, so there's 5 votes. He made a decision. He had to go right or left. Right would have put people in Massachusetts back to work. I'm more biased. All I care about is our members.
Right.
But it would have put Massachusetts people back to work. And he chose 5 times to vote against it.
Well, he did vote yes multiple times as it relates to trade agreements, and I'll let you go ahead and take that one.
There's another one. He's not one of us.
Right.
So we know, these trade agreements going back to NAFTA and all of them now have, a different acronym to them. But you get, Colombia, Korea, Panama, Colombia, and we know the world is getting smaller, and maybe there's a need to open up some trade, but not at the expense of the American worker. But there's no problem consistently voting yes for that, but can't bring himself to voting yes to put some people back to work, or yes for some people to extend their unemployment. And devastating when your unemployment runs out, you're not back to work. Devastating to the family, but it doesn't seem to bother a hair in his head.
Who would he be with if you looked at his voting record? I think some of them come up in the banking industry and what he has voted and his record there. I'll let you expand on that.
Yeah, so the party itself is comical. They want to give states rights, I guess, when it's an issue that they don't want to take a position on. But in this case here, so legislation allowing states to limit credit card interest rates. So let the state deal with it. And so no, we know what that is. That's a kiss back to the banking industry in Wall Street that have on the record. Just look at the contributions where his money comes from, extending student loan interest rates. So that was going to double to about 6%, and He voted against extending the current rate, which is about high twos, I believe, is the rate. And you know, the other one is the same on student loan interest rates. It extends them, and he voted twice against that. And so, you know, it infuriates me when he's one of us, and maybe the car hunt and pickup truck just take it to another level. Right. He's for you. Yeah, he's for you. He's for you. If you're in the banking industry, you're on Wall Street, or you own an oil company, or you're looking to, you know, ship some jobs to Panama or Korea. So yeah, he is for you if you're one of them. But he's not for you if you're in the construction industry and you deal with the cycles of employment and unemployment, and you rely on unemployment extensions and that you paid into it. So he's really trying to pull the wool over, I think, a lot of guys. Right. And it's important that they know the facts. So, one, they can articulate it with the guy across the street or someone. Say, he's not one of us.
What about collective bargaining?
Yeah, I mean, he's clear there, and it's comical. The SPAM, state police, a state police union. I don't know if it's the troopers themselves, but so public safety officers, legislation allowing collective bargaining for public safety officers, no. The NLRB, Craig Becker, who's a labor guy, you know, he says I'm a union guy. He says I'm the only union guy in the race. He voted against Craig Becker going on the NLRB. When it comes to, you know, I'm the union guy, or I'm in favor of the cop and the fire, and it's all bull, you know. And of course, Elena Kagan is a wonderful attorney, and I think she's got an open mind, not biased either way. And she'll have some good votes there, and I think she'll do the right thing for working America. Mm-hmm. But he was against that as well.
Moving on to Elizabeth Warren, now that we've covered Scott Brown and his voting record. Yeah. Moving on to Elizabeth Warren, kind of what she stands for, in your opinion, and where it'll go from there.
Yeah, we don't know an awful lot about, and those that are, I guess, against her or listening will snicker. We do know that, you know, she was a single mother, put herself through law school, and through college, through law school, and ended up at Harvard Law School, where she's a professor. And President Obama thought enough of her in the consumer protection field. She went down to Washington. I think she did a good job. She oversaw TAP. And she clearly cares, in my opinion, about workers. And she knows, she's an intelligent woman, sees the, this 525 times the average worker, and sees what's going on in this country, and it's wrong. And she says that's why she's running. I believe her. I think she'll be a great senator.
Are there other local races that Local 103 is involved in that you'd like to talk a little bit about?
Yeah, there's only so much time. Right. I mentioned John Dumas earlier. John, he literally, he does it all. I mean, he's got a lot of help from the people that he calls, but John heads it all up, and he can only be in so many races. So certainly, Massachusetts is not a swing state. So President Obama will win Massachusetts. So there's not as much time there. We are in New Hampshire, as I stated. Elizabeth Warren's race is probably the #1 race we're involved with, joined at the hip with Mayor Menino, and working hard to get her elected. The next race, Joe Kennedy. Joe's a Kennedy, as you could say, son of Joe, who was a congressman, and grandson of Joe as well. So he's running for Barney Frank's seat. Barney's moving on, and looks good in his district, and I hope he's elected. So we're working hard on that one as well. That would be probably the second one that's getting the most attention. Third, I think, would be John Tierney. John's going for re-election down from Quincy to the Cape. It's through redistricting. It's a different district today, but it looks like John's going to be fine there. Fourth, we're really not that involved. We do what we can in John Tierney's race. He's got a challenger, Richard Tassay, and it's neck and neck. But we can't be all things to all people, and we have to focus in on those, I think, that are races that are more important, and those that are going to do the most for us. Mm-hmm. And you read between the lines there. So that's probably why they line up the way that they line up.
Certainly an important election. We hope that the information we provided tonight allowed our viewers to at least understand the issues a little bit better. Hopefully, as we talked about, drill down on some of those specifics, and if you're undecided, see really what the candidates are about from a local 103 position.
I think what it's about, Dom, and there's many sayings. You want your cake and eat it too.
Right.
And this is, I think, one of those important elections. The Senate's in the balance. The House, I don't know if anyone's really thinking it's going to get back onto the Democratic side. The president race, I think, looks good for Obama. So certainly the Brown-Warren race is important. Obama in New Hampshire is important. But the cake and eat it too, I guess, I've mentioned it to many of our members. We have to make a decision. We all have personal opinions outside of the union. And that could be guns, that could be a woman's right to choose, that could be a religion issue. Whatever that might be, you're entitled to that position. I mean, nobody's arguing you're right, you're wrong. You have your opinion. And then you have, internal, under the roof, Local 103, construction, organized labor issues. Davis-Bacon, right to work, OSHA, Employee Free Choice Act. And you have to make a decision. It's either going to be those issues or those issues that conflict with the candidate that is for our issues. And if you feel that issue is more important, then I can argue that I think you're wrong, but it's your decision. So we can't have our cake and eat it too. The numbers speak for themselves. The market share and the unionization rate continues to decline. CEO pay versus the average worker is out of control, and the whole thing is upside down. And it's fixable, I think, with the right candidates, not just the Carhartt jacket and the pickup truck. Look at the records.
Thanks for your time tonight, Mike, and your staff for putting all the hard work in to develop all the slides and information. Certainly,
they work hard.
Yes, they certainly do. Yeah. So we invite everyone to click around the rest of the site, check out some of the other videos, the past webcasts that we've done. There's certainly a lot of content on this site, which helps tell your story in the bigger picture. Yeah,
there's a lot of information, and I talked to many non-union contractors that I'm amazed at how much time they spend in there based on my conversation. So it's really good. It's rebranding. It's rebranding unions in general, and certainly Local 103 on a smaller level.
Well, we certainly would like to invite anyone who missed anything from the program tonight or wants to go back to check out a certain section or relook at another one of the slides. We're going to upload a full replay here on the site very, very soon. So I'd say, be on the lookout for that.
Very good. Thanks, Tom.
And for Mike Monahan, Dominic Geritano saying so long and go vote.